Iran stands as a formidable power in the Middle East, defying Western influence for over 4 decades. Unlike nations quickly subdued by military or economic pressure, Iran has built a unique resistance culture rooted in history, ideology, and strategic adaptability. Its 1979 revolution transformed it from a pro-Western monarchy to a theocratic republic, setting it ideologically apart from most other regional powers. Since then, Iran has positioned itself as the leader of anti-Western sentiment in the Islamic world. This revolutionary identity not only galvanizes domestic unity during external threats, but also allows Iran to portray itself as a victim of imperialism, gaining sympathy across the global south. The more the West pressures Iran through sanctions or isolation, the more it strengthens this narrative, enabling Iran to rally support internally and externally. This dynamic has made Iran uniquely resilient in the face of attempts at destabilization or regime change. Geography plays a crucial role in Iran's endurance. The country is vast, mountainous and strategically located between Central Asia, the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. These natural features have historically made Iran difficult to invade and even harder to occupy. For centuries, invaders from Alexander the Great to modern empires have found Iran's terrain a nightmare for prolonged military campaigns. Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point through which a significant portion of the world's oil passes, gives it leverage over global energy markets. Any instability in Iran threatens global oil supply, compelling even hostile powers to act cautiously. This geographical advantage means Iran can project power regionally while also deterring large-scale Western intervention. In a world where oil still dictates many geopolitical decisions, Iran's location grants it an indispensable geopolitical card that no amount of military might can neutralize without grave global consequences. Iran's military doctrine has evolved to emphasize asymmetric warfare, making direct confrontation costly for any adversary. Instead of building a traditional army designed to match Western militaries tank for tank, Iran has focused on developing unconventional capabilities. It backs proxy forces across the region, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to militias in Iraq and Syria, that can strike Western interests without triggering a conventional war. Additionally, Iran has developed a robust missile program capable of hitting regional US bases and allies. Its drone and cyber capabilities further complicate any military calculus. Iran's strategy isn't about outright victory, but about raising the costs of war so high that no Western country finds it worth the risk. This approach has created a form of deterrence that can't be undone with airstrikes or regime change operations. The West understands that any conflict with Iran would be prolonged, destabilizing, and politically toxic, particularly after the long and unpopular wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iran's political structure is deeply entrenched and difficult to dismantle from the outside. The unique blend of theocratic rule and electoral politics creates a complex system where legitimacy is drawn from both religious authority and popular participation. While critics often focus on the flaws in Iran's elections, the political process does offer a safety valve for public dissent, giving the regime adaptability. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, while unelected, holds real power, and his authority is buttressed by institutions like the Revolutionary Guards and the Basij militia. These forces are not only military but deeply embedded in the economy and culture. Unlike regimes that collapse under the weight of external pressure, Iran's political system has shown an uncanny ability to evolve internally without losing its grip. Attempts to weaken the state often strengthen it, as opposition groups are seen as aligned with foreign adversaries. This internal cohesion complicates external efforts to force change. Economically, Iran has endured what would cripple most nations. Decades of sanctions have certainly hurt the population, but they've also forced Iran to become more self-reliant. The country has developed a resistance economy, prioritizing local production and diversifying trade away from Western partners. While this has not led to prosperity, it has created a level of economic resilience that confounds many Western economists. Iran has turned to alternative alliances with China, Russia and neighboring countries to bypass the Western-dominated global financial system. This adaptability reduces the effectiveness of Western sanctions over time. Furthermore, Iran's vast natural resources, particularly oil and gas, mean it always has something to offer, giving it leverage in diplomatic negotiations. The economy, though strained, continues to function and support the state. Unlike other sanctioned nations that crumble under economic warfare, Iran finds ways to survive and even exploit the economic hardship as proof of its ideological battle against Western domination. Iran's influence beyond its borders is another reason the West cannot defeat it. Through a carefully cultivated network of alliances and proxies, Iran has extended its reach from Yemen to Lebanon. These groups do not merely take orders from Tehran, but share ideological affinity and strategic objectives. This regional influence allows Iran to strike adversaries without direct confrontation, blurring the lines of responsibility and complicating any Western response. Moreover, Iran positions itself as a protector of Shiite communities across the region, deepening its legitimacy among disenfranchised populations. Western efforts to counter this influence often fail because they misunderstand the social and religious ties underpinning it. The US and its allies may see Iran's hand in every regional crisis, but for many locals, Iran represents a counterbalance to Sunni Arab monarchies and Western interference. This layered influence, military, religious, ideological, makes Iran a central player in every Middle Eastern conflict, whether the West acknowledges it or not. The failure of Western information campaigns is another overlooked factor in Iran's resistance. Despite massive investments in Persian-language media and digital platforms, Western narratives often fail to resonate with the Iranian public. Decades of interventionism have bred deep skepticism toward Western intentions. Iranians are highly literate and politically aware, and many remember the CIA-backed 1953 coup and the role of Western powers in supporting the Shah's brutal regime. These historical scars have cultivated a national consciousness resistant to foreign manipulation. Government censorship does limit information, but many Iranians still turn to local sources and culturally relevant commentary rather than foreign propaganda. Western soft power has made limited inroads in a country where cultural pride and revolutionary ideology run deep. This resilience in the information domain undermines color revolution strategies that proved effective elsewhere. Iran's leadership knows that while dissent exists, it is not easily converted into pro-Western sentiment through external messaging alone. Western military failures in the region have paradoxically strengthened Iran's position. The US invasion of Iraq removed a key regional rival and allowed Iran to extend its influence westward. In Afghanistan, the US withdrawal left a power vacuum that Tehran now navigates with relative ease. Each intervention that promised to isolate or weaken Iran has instead reinforced its narrative of a Western incompetence and imperialism. These blunders have emboldened Iran to act more assertively in the region, knowing that the West's appetite for new conflicts has diminished significantly. As the West struggles with domestic political divisions, budget constraints and war fatigue, Iran gains space to maneuver. It's not that Iran is immune to pressure, but that the alternatives to diplomacy are increasingly unpalatable for Western governments. The very instability that Iran is often accused of causing has made it indispensable to any future regional order, compelling even hostile actors to negotiate with rather than overthrow. Iran's culture of martyrdom and sacrifice plays a psychological role that Western societies struggle to counter. Rooted in Shiite religious tradition, the concept of standing firm against oppression, even at great personal cost, is deeply embedded in Iranian identity. Oh no. This is not just a tool of state propaganda, but a genuinely held worldview among many. When sanctions bite or military threats loom, Iran's leaders frame the struggle in spiritual terms, echoes of Karbala, the fight against injustice and national sovereignty. This cultural narrative fortifies public resilience and complicates Western psychological operations. While Western societies prioritize stability and economic comfort, Iran draws strength from enduring hardship. This inversion of values means that strategies aimed at economic or military exhaustion often backfire, reinforcing the regime's legitimacy. Understanding this difference is crucial. It is not merely a government holding out, but a population shaped by centuries of collective struggle against foreign domination and internal betrayal. Technology and science are also becoming pillars of Iran's long-term resilience. Despite sanctions and isolation, Iran has made significant advancements in fields like nanotechnology, nuclear research, aerospace and medicine. These achievements serve both practical and symbolic functions. They reduce dependence on foreign technology while signaling that Iran can thrive under pressure. Scientific development is often linked with national pride and seen as a form of resistance. The nuclear program in particular, while controversial, is viewed domestically as a symbol of sovereignty and modernization. Iran's ability to keep progressing despite international efforts to stall its development adds to its psychological edge. The West's attempts to limit Iran's technological ambitions have not only failed, but often produced the opposite effect, deepening national investment in science and increasing public support for such initiatives. Iran's strategy is clear, to show that it can not only survive but lead in areas critical to national independence and global respect. The role of religion as both ideology and statecraft in Iran is unique and immensely stabilizing. The Islamic Republic is not merely a state with religious leaders, but a system in which divine authority is embedded in governance. This fusion provides a moral legitimacy that is difficult for secular or purely nationalistic regimes to replicate. While this model is not universally admired, it grants the government a reservoir of religious authority that can be activated during crises. In times of hardship, leaders frame events in eschatological or moral terms, urging patience, sacrifice and faith. This theocratic component gives Iran an identity beyond geopolitics, something spiritual and enduring. The West, operating on principles of secular democracy and liberal capitalism, finds it difficult to understand or counter a system that draws power from the metaphysical. As long as the religious leadership maintains its spiritual credibility, the system is internally cohesive, and external threats often serve only to reinforce its foundational beliefs. Finally, Iran's adaptability in global diplomacy ensures it is never fully isolated. While Western media often portrays Iran as an international pariah, the country has cultivated strong ties with emerging powers like China, Russia, and India. These relationships provide critical lifelines in trade, defense, and diplomacy. Moreover, Iran has learned to exploit the divisions among Western countries themselves, engaging with Europe differently than with the United States. As global power shifts eastward, Iran positions itself as a key bridge between the East and West. Its participation in regional organizations and willingness to engage in multilateral forums complicates efforts to box it into isolation. By continuously redefining its alliances and embracing multipolarity, Iran avoids becoming a solitary target. In a rapidly changing global order, Iran's strategic patience and diplomatic maneuvering give it the tools to not only survive but remain a central actor on the world stage, despite decades of Western attempts to contain it.